Good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for starting your day with us. We're going to begin this morning with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth at the center of another controversy. He is facing renewed scrutiny after a Pentagon watchdog underscored that he shared secret information over an unsecured group chat that could have put American troops in danger. The report, which follows an 8-month-long investigation, said Hegseth violated military regulations by using his personal phone to share these details about U.S. strikes in Yemen back in March before they happened in that Signal group chat. That is according to 2 sources who read the report.
It comes as the Trump administration sends top military brass to Capitol Hill today. They'll have to brief lawmakers about that September double-tap mission strike on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean. One U.S. official and a source familiar with the Pentagon's actions that day tell NBC News the second strike killed at least 2 survivors of the first strike. The president was questioned again about this yesterday. He was asked if Secretary Hegseth or any officials involved should be punished if it's found survivors were in fact killed while clinging to that boat. In response, the president expressed support for the operation. He also suggested again the operation would soon expand to include attacks on land.
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people. We know every route, we know every house. We know where they manufacture this crap. We know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also.
Retired U.S. Army Colonel Steve Warren is standing by with us for military analysis. First, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba for the latest. Monica, good morning. So Secretary Hegseth responded to the findings of this Inspector General report about Signalgate. He took to X saying no classified information, total exoneration. Case closed. But the sources who've read it tell us the actual report appears to be highly critical of Hegseth. A redacted version still hasn't been publicly released, but walk us through what we're learning about some of the key findings.
Yeah, there's a lot of context here, Joe and Savannah, that's really important to all of this. So Secretary Hegseth is, of course, the official technical classification authority on some of this information. And that is what he is arguing and saying that essentially if he wanted to declassify whatever was shared in this Signal chat, that he could have made that decision. But what we don't know yet from the report or whether it addresses this in detail is whether he took the appropriate steps in declassifying that and going through that process that is considered appropriate. He says essentially that because he could declassify it, he did, and that's why no classified information was shared. But according to the sources who read the report, he still, given the information that he ended up sharing, did put some military assets in danger because of the information that he was revealing in advance in this way with this group of people that included a magazine editor by accident, but also some family members. It was a large group chat. So that is one issue. And then also here, there is the major issue of whether he should have been communicating any of this on Signal to begin with. That is a major violation. The president himself has said specific and sensitive military detailing and planning shouldn't be discussed on an app like Signal, guys.
Monica, I mean, Pete Hegseth, he's been the subject of scrutiny, a lot of drama surrounding him, even before he was confirmed to lead the Department of Defense. Now we have this Signalgate controversy back in the spotlight. Lawmakers have launched multiple investigations into that September boat strike that we mentioned a moment ago in the Caribbean. Is the White House now seeing him at all as a liability with all this going on, or are they still standing by him?
Publicly, they are very much standing by him. They are defending him. The White House press secretary released an entire statement saying that she believes that the findings of this Inspector General report say that what they have been saying all along, that there was no risk of sharing any kind of classified information. And so that is what you're seeing from a messaging standpoint from both the Pentagon and the White House. They are completely defending Secretary Hegseth. For now, we saw, of course, Secretary Hegseth and President Trump sitting side by side at that cabinet meeting earlier this week, where, again, publicly, certainly there is this backing of him. Privately, there is some concession that these kinds of stories are complicated. They only raise more questions. And we know certainly that some top administration officials and defense officials are going to be pressed for those starting today.
Yeah. And Monica, I mean, yesterday we saw a group of Democratic senators joined by Republican Rand Paul filing a resolution to try and block President Trump from using the armed forces to engage in any hostilities within Venezuela, against Venezuela, without approval from Congress. This comes, as we said, as lawmakers are set to be briefed on that follow-up strike on the Venezuelan drug boat. We're seeing lawmakers on both sides of the aisle engaged here. So who are they going to hear from? What evidence could they be looking at?
So a key commander who is the one that the Pentagon says officially gave this order for the second strike, who is Admiral Bradley. And this is somebody who is going to be meeting with lawmakers behind closed doors in a classified setting, not just with Republicans, also with Democrats combined. There are several committees who are seeking information from him. And we believe that he is prepared to say, according to a defense official, that he believed those survivors were still technically military targets. So exactly why and the rationale for that is still a little bit of an open question. But what we believe he is going to say and is prepared to say is that perhaps these survivors after the initial strike, maybe according to some reporting in the Wall Street Journal, could have gotten back onto the boat. And if they were back on the boat, either trying to be recollecting or dealing with whatever the alleged cargo was on the boat, which the Trump administration says was drugs, that then they could have been military targets that needed to be taken out. But the official Trump administration position is that that second strike also happened in order to sink the boat, which is something the president says that he's okay with, even though he has also said this week he still wants more information. And he said notably yesterday, guys, that if there is additional video of that second strike, he would support releasing it.
All right, Monica Alba, thank you so much.
For military analysis, let's now bring in retired Army Colonel and former Pentagon spokesperson Steve Warren. Colonel Warren, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. I want to start with your reaction to this IG report, saying Secretary Hegseth could have put these American troops at risk had those group chat messages about the strikes in Yemen been intercepted by a foreign adversary on a platform like Signal. We heard Hegseth characterize this report as a total exoneration, but based on what we know, what we just heard from Monica, is that what it sounds like to you?
It doesn't, and thanks for having me this morning. What I think the secretary is maybe splitting some hairs, right? He's relying on the fact that the IG report apparently does not come out and say Secretary Hegseth spilled classified information into the public. We do not believe the report says that. So he feels he's exonerated from that act of putting classified information out into the public. What the report does say, and I think this is the important piece to understand for everyone listening, is the concept of risk. Every combat operation has risk. They are all risky operations. The job of a commander or a senior leader is to help reduce or mitigate that risk. And I think with the IG report, what we'll find when we have the opportunity to read it is we'll find that the IG report says that the secretary's actions introduced some additional risk to the operation.
Colonel, we're going to use your expertise to help us understand the chain of command where responsibility is supposed to lie. So we're talking about this double tap strike here. What do you make of Secretary Hegseth sort of trying to distance himself? In your view, does this fall on Admiral Bradley, or does the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of War, potentially share some responsibility here?
I think there's shared responsibility. And again, what we have to be very careful here, I think, as we discuss what happened out there in the Caribbean. You know, first of all, we do not know exactly what happened. In this case, the Pentagon has not really explained in great detail these combat operations, which is a little bit of a break from what the Pentagon had done, say, during the campaign against ISIS or combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. So there's less information out to the public. So we don't know everything. I think what's also important is that the law of warfare here is it's not as cut and dry as folks want it to be. So the operational commander, in this case, General Bradley, is responsible for issuing the orders to strike or to strike again. That much is perfectly clear. If Admiral Bradley believed he was following broader guidance from his boss, the Secretary Hegseth, then that's a mitigating circumstance. But what I think is most important to remember here is that if Admiral Bradley believed that vessel or the cargo on that vessel was a legitimate military target, then he is within his rights, within the law of land warfare, as I understand it, to strike that target until it is destroyed. If there are others around, then they're unfortunate collateral damage.
Colonel, I want to ask you about something the Secretary said about the potential targeting of survivors in an instance like this a couple days ago. I want to play this and we'll talk on the other side.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire, smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war.
Again, with your expertise, just sort of explain the fog of war. I think we all kind of understand what that means, but as you understand it, and if Hegseth's explanation so far for that second strike withstands scrutiny, in your opinion.
It's right on the edge. Fog of war really, in this case, what he's talking about is literal fog, the smoke, the debris, the spray from the strikes. Generally, when we talk about the fog of war, we talk about the fact that commanders or even troops on the ground never have perfect information. Combat is a very confusing, very violent, very scary thing. So the fog of war is that sense of you don't know everything that's going on. In this case, I think we have to take the Secretary at his word that he was not in the room when that second strike took place. I'm okay with that. But I do believe that Admiral Bradley, who is a very experienced combat operator and Navy SEAL, he is able, that's what you develop over time, is the ability to see through that fog of war.
We appreciate your time and your expertise. Colonel Steve Warren, thanks so much.
Thank you.
As promised, the Trump administration has started immigration enforcement operations in both Minneapolis and New Orleans. Those crackdowns began on Wednesday. Comes as the president unleashed another offensive and xenophobic tirade against the Somali community in Minneapolis. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is there and has this report.
A senior law enforcement official telling NBC News ICE has begun enforcement operations in Minneapolis, all as President Trump is doubling down on his comments railing against the Somali community here, the largest in the U.S.
The Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country.
Minneapolis City Councilman Jamal Osman was born in Somalia.
How did it hit you when you heard what the president had to say?
The saddest part for me was just trying to answer my daughters and saying that why are we being singled out?
I won't answer any more questions.
Okay. Can you put handcuffs on him, please?
While Border Patrol is also launching a crackdown on illegal immigration in New Orleans, administration officials say ICE in Minneapolis is not targeting the Somali community, but just enforcing deportation orders already issued by judges.
We're going to enforce the laws of this country without apology, including in the Twin Cities. Focuses on those Twin Cities more because of the criminal activities been uncovered by DOJ and DHS.
Federal prosecutors have charged dozens of people in Minnesota's Somali community for allegedly stealing hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer money, including from government programs meant to give meals to low-income children.
This beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
But this son of Somali immigrants, who doesn't want to give his name, says the president is creating fear and unfairly blaming the whole community.
Other people hearing that, they're going to really use that to come at us. That's what I'm really scared of.
And the police chief here in Minneapolis with a pointed message for residents telling people here to call 911 if they come into contact with masked agents, saying people have reported they're scared because they can't tell whether those agents are law enforcement. Border Czar Tom Homan responding, calling it shameful to call 911 on officers. Back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you.
Well, this morning, newly released images are giving the public an inside look at Jeffrey Epstein's compound in the Caribbean. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released more than 150 photos and videos yesterday of what has been known as Epstein Island.
It is the tiny island in the U.S. Virgin Islands where the late sex offender was accused of taking underage girls as part of his alleged sex trafficking operation. These images, never seen before, offer new insight into the property as lawmakers keep pushing for more information on Epstein.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona joins us from Washington with more on this. Mel, good morning. So these images, they are just really a small part, actually, of the thousands of documents that the House Oversight Committee has obtained. What are we learning from these images? What files does the committee still have, by the way, that they're holding on to?
Yeah, good morning, guys. So there are over a dozen new photos and videos that were released by the committee that show basically various rooms throughout the estate that Jeffrey Epstein had. on the Virgin Islands. Some of them are just bedrooms or bathrooms. There are no people in the images, and most of them are fairly normal. There's also a picture of the coastline with a no trespassing sign in one of the images. But at least two of them were rather unusual. There was one photo that appeared to be a dentist office set up in his house with some fake plastic masks of men, almost looking like Halloween costume masks hanging on the wall. There's another picture, the one right there, where it's a library. There's a blackboard. You can see some of the words power, deception, music written on that blackboard, but other words were blacked out, so we can't see what those words are. Now, we don't know the significance of these images because when Democrats released them, they included no captions and they did not include any sort of accompanying information about why they thought these images were important, other than to say that they are releasing these images in the name of transparency. But Democrats did also reveal that they have received new information, some bank records related to Jeffrey Epstein from both JP Morgan Chase as well as Deutsche Bank, and they're in the process of reviewing those materials and plan to release them in the coming days.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk more about this. I mean, the release of these files reminds us there was a law passed overwhelmingly by Congress last month that requires the Justice Department to hand over the remaining Epstein files within 30 days. That deadline's coming up. Lawmakers are putting pressure on AG Pam Bondi to get an update on these files. What is it they're asking for? Do we know when we'll see them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this request is coming from a bipartisan and bicameral, which means Senate and House group of lawmakers. Congress did pass a bill, as you mentioned, back before the Thanksgiving break that would require the DOJ to make public all the Epstein files. So that means that they have 15 days to do that. So far, though, they have not made those files public. And so what these lawmakers want to know is whether the files are coming. I want to read part of what they said in their letter. They said, in light of the short 30-day deadline to release the Epstein files, we are particularly focused on understanding the contents of any new evidence, information, or procedural hurdles that could interfere with the department's ability to meet the statutory deadline. So far, though, no response from the DOJ, and the clock, of course, is ticking.
In other news from Washington, Mel, we do want to ask you about, before we let you go, you wrote a piece for NBCNews.com. It's really looking at how several Republican women in the House have split from Speaker Mike Johnson recently. It includes Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, Elise Stefanik. What issues have these lawmakers had? What are they butting heads with the leader on? Does this indicate any type of larger rift?
Yeah, so there are some larger rifts and frustrations, I would say, inside the House Republican conference right now. But we have particularly seen Republican women speaking out and being very vocal with their frustrations. And I think the reason for that is that some of the issues that have been the most divisive in the party over the past few weeks and months have been related to women, whether that's the Jeffrey Epstein issue when they were trying to release the files. It was a group of 3 Republican women as well as 1 Republican man who led the effort, despite all this pressure from the White House not to try to release those files. And then there was also another effort to censure a Republican, Corey Mills of Florida, for his alleged misconduct towards women. And there were 8 Republicans, 6 of them being women, who wanted to go along with that effort. It did not succeed. But the result that we've seen is that Republican women are increasingly criticizing, even in some cases on the record, their own leadership and Speaker Mike Johnson. They're revolting on the floor, signing these discharge petitions, not playing ball. And in some cases, they're also retiring and seeking other opportunities. So all of that sparking concerns that Republican women could see their ranks depleted in the next Congress, guys.
All right, Mel, thank you very much.
Now to that Arctic blast, bringing the first frigid air of the season to cities across the Midwest and Northeast. Millions of Americans are waking up this morning to dangerously cold temperatures and sub-zero wind chills.
Out west, another round of winter weather is causing major problems as heavy snow and ice are creating dangerous travel conditions in the Rocky Mountains. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman will have a complete look at your forecast in just a moment.
First, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in a very chilly Chicago this morning and joins us now. Shaq, first, our apologies.
Saw that puff of breath when you just left.
Yeah. Yeah, the forecast pretty much in the teens all day there. Describe to us what this feels like and how folks there who are hardy in Chicago, they're used to cold weather, but how are they dealing with the frigid temps?
I feel like you're asking me to describe my pain right now. I'm happy to. It's downright brutal out here in Chicago. It's temperatures that many people in the Midwest are feeling, but these temperatures are going all the way out to the Northeast as well. I did bring a thermometer here, and let's see what it says. It has a temperature about 10 to 15 degrees right now. But the big thing here is when you factor in the wind chill, that breeze that we're feeling right now, that's what's making it feel like sub-zero temperatures. Those are dangerous temperatures and dangerous conditions for folks. And again, it's not just the Midwest that's feeling this right now, but you're seeing much of the country feeling this Arctic blast. Not just today, but also we're going to be dealing with this tonight and into tomorrow as well.
Shaq, you mentioned the Northeast. What are some areas of concern for this part of the country?
Yeah, Northeast, we saw some wintry weather yesterday, really snarled traffic. You saw in Connecticut, there's some pretty crazy video of a semi-truck kind of sliding off the road. It's not just the Northeast, by the way. You have in Colorado some bad weather yesterday leading to massive pileups. According to police there, authorities saying that 50 cars were caught up in a pileup on one road there. Fortunately, much of that weather has since cleared out, so it's really the temperatures that are kind of the biggest impact for most folks today.
And when we talk about Colorado, not just the roads, but air travel, Denver International Airport, we had, what, 600 flights delayed or canceled yesterday. How are things doing there now?
Yeah, just for some comparison, that's about the number of cancellations and flights that we're seeing nationwide right now. So Denver really felt the impacts yesterday. I just checked and things are looking much better today. Likely that's because of that weather system really moving out. If you're looking at air travel, if you're flying anywhere today, one area to kind of be concerned is the Southeast. That's where you're seeing a different weather system, some heavy rain that will be going through that area. Of course, there are still impacts that you're seeing across the country. Here in Chicago last night, O'Hare Airport had about an hour-long ground stop, and there wasn't even significant snow. It was a combination of some falling snow and then these cold temperatures really slowing things down. So when you have temperatures this cold, this dangerous, you see I'm starting to fall over my words a little bit, that can lead to not only travel impacts, but impacts as I'm trying to deliver you the news as well.
All the impacts there.
Shaq, we're done.
Of course, we will tell you to go inside, but we also fully understand Shaq will be out there pretty much all day long. So we thank you, Shaq, for your service.
Warm, right?
We appreciate that, Shaq. Thank you.
I'm here to serve.
For more on the bitter cold setting in, let's bring in our friend Angie Lastman.
And I'm just getting word, Angie, you're going to go out and replace Shaq. No, wait, Bismarck.
Oh man, suddenly I'm very busy. I'm unavailable, guys. No, it is bitter cold. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. Shaq has that extreme cold that has settled in, and we've got to talk about the Siberian Express and basically why we're seeing this really cold air settle in place. We've got an area of high pressure, an area of low pressure. You got to look way up north. That's the Arctic Ocean that you see right there, and those two kind of features in the atmosphere are ushering in that cold air toward Canada. Now, we've got more than 5,000 miles for that cold air, that pocket of cold air to cover in order for it to reach the United States, and it's doing exactly that. We've got this area of low pressure kind of hanging out by the Hudson Bay. That's going to draw that Arctic air into parts of the United States. So that is why it's that cold. Now, what you really want to know is how cold is it going to get? And we've got the potential to see a plethora of record lows here as we get through at least tomorrow. So here's a look at some of those locations stretching from the East Coast all the way back to the Midwest. You can see places like Des Moines, Chicago included in that. And temperatures this morning, bitter cold, as Shaq just mentioned. So -3 is what it feels like in Minneapolis right now, 4 below for the wind chill in Chicago for our friend Shaq, 18 degrees in St. Louis, but feeling like just 4 degrees. And even as far south as Cincinnati and Dodge City and Denver, all those locations are quite bitter cold this morning. And this is, of course, that coldest air of the season yet. Here's where we go for our afternoon highs today. 22 degrees. That's all you're getting in St. Louis. Just 17 for your high temperature in Chicago. 31 in Cincinnati. Little Rock, you don't even make it into the 40s today. And we keep that chill going into tomorrow as well. And this is where we're going to see an even better chance of some of those record lows. So 3 degrees for your early morning temperature in Chicago and feeling like 10 below. Just 9 degrees for what it feels like in Columbus tomorrow morning. Flint, sub-zero for the wind chill. And even New York City, 21 degrees, but feeling like 12 degrees tomorrow morning, guys. Bundling up is a must. And then that cold continues, of course, into our afternoon hours on Friday. We'll see temperatures into the 30s for Washington, D.C., 28 for Chicago, 37 for Raleigh. And even as we get into early next week, adding insult to injury, yeah, we're going to have our next cold outbreak. You can see temperatures return to the teens for Minneapolis on Saturday, but here come those single digits by Sunday. So not putting our parkas and all those layers away anytime soon, guys.
I'd be okay if we got the snow and then the cold, which keeps the snow in place for the winter. We're just
you want it to look beautiful instead of just feeling horrible. Yes, I understand.
Right, work on that.
Okay, I like the Siberian Express explainer.
I knew you would like that.
Thank you.
It's like the Polar Express.
Exactly.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.